This is CBC Here and Now.
Hours a day, the phone goes 7 days a week.
Every day we're just constantly running out of product.
There is renovation fever across the province as people take advantage of government rebates and supplies are running low.
I'll speak with Fury and Abbott, who are campaigning outside of St. John's.
We've committed to going to all 40 districts.
So it's been nice to get out from behind a computer screen.
Both are hitting the roads of Newfoundland and Labrador and campaigning during COVID.
Welcome to Here and Now. For months now, we've been starting the newscast with stories about the COVID-19 pandemic. Well, tonight, we're beginning with a story we hope will put a smile on your face, a big, bright smile. It's a story about a tooth fairy godmother. Anthony joins me now with the details from a dentist's office. Anthony, what's this about?
Yeah, you wouldn't think to get relief from the seriousness of the pandemic, you might find it in a dental clinic. But here we are. I know you wouldn't think it, but this is a wonderful story about a woman named April Baldwin. Now, she got some bad news recently that she would have to have all of her teeth removed, which is horrible news that nobody ever wants to get. And she was very concerned about how she would actually afford dentures. And she decided to actually post what had happened to her on Facebook. Take a look.
I had to do this right away because nobody will ever know how much that what I'm about to say means to me. 2 weeks ago I had my teeth extracted and someone just called my dentist's office anonymously wanting to pay for my dentures. And I don't know who it was.
Oh my goodness, Anthony, that's so nice. How is she doing now?
I know it's kind of a quirky, happy tearjerker of a story.
Yeah.
She's doing okay now. Originally, we were going to do an interview together, but she said she'd like to wait until she gets her new teeth before she does that. But her dentist did agree to do an interview with me. Now, he's busy with patients right now. I'm at his clinic. It's Dr. Mishak's clinic, Somerville Clinic, and he spoke to me about this story, and here's a very brief interview.
Well, Dr. Rufus, tell me about April Baldwin's condition.
Yes, April had infections in her teeth several times, and she was in pain. The reason she didn't want to get her teeth out is she knew that dentures are going to be expensive. So she made multiple visits to our clinic, and she used to repeatedly take medication to get her out of pain. But that would get her out of pain only for a very small period of time, and again she would be back with pain again. She had no options other than to get her teeth out.
So at some point you said, listen, I'm sorry, April, but really we're going to have to extract these teeth?
That is right. It got to a point she had to extract her teeth, but at the same time she was very concerned because she couldn't afford dentures.
Right. Okay, and then you get this phone call.
Yes.
So tell me about this phone call.
Yeah, I was working one day and suddenly I get this call, and the person remained to be anonymous, wanted to remain anonymous, and they said, they want to take care of April Baldwin's denture expense. I was pleasantly surprised for April Baldwin. At the same time, I was shocked because, I don't know, not many people would do this. It was a very good gesture from a kind-hearted soul. God bless him and his family for doing this.
And this is, we're talking more than $2,000, right?
Yes, that is right. That is right. So I was like pleasantly surprised. At the same time, I felt very happy for April Baldwin because she certainly deserved a good smile that is going to make her self-esteem better after she got her teeth out.
Well, obviously, you're a dentist, you see patients who, have problems. What difference does it make for a person like April to know, hey, I'm going to have dentures and, I'll look the same or even better?
Yes, April is certainly going to feel very good with her new set of dentures. At the same time, she's not going to have those infections, or she doesn't have to deal with the pain that she was going through earlier, and she's going to be very happy.
She was very moved by this gesture.
Yes.
Have you encountered this kind of random generosity before?
No, this is the very first time that has happened, and I've never encountered this kind of situation before.
Because dentures dentistry itself is very expensive. There are many people in April's situation who really can't afford. Do you ever have concerns as a dentist? There are a lot of people out there who don't have a guardian angel that just sort of suffer with their dental situation?
Yes, we're very concerned about such people because sometimes people are in too much pain and they don't have the money to take care of the expenditure.
All right, well listen, Dr. Rufus, it's a very pleasant, heartwarming story in these strange pandemic times.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
You're kindly welcome. Thank you. Have a good day.
Oh, it is such a heartwarming story. What a nice thing for a stranger to do for someone else. When is she going to get her new teeth?
Okay, well, her first appointment to get fitted and to make the impressions, with the dentures is tomorrow, so a lot of excitement about that. And I think, Carolyn, it's only fitting that we let April have the last word before she comes in to get fitted for her new teeth.
Someone paid $2,300 today. And whoever you are, thank you so much. I was worried about, having to pay for it. I knew that the next few months was going to be really hard trying to squeeze the money out for it, and someone just paid for them. So if you're watching, you'll never know how much it means. So thank you.
Well, there is at least one positive side effect of the COVID-19 pandemic, and it can be found in the home renovation sector. Contractors and retailers say they're busier than ever. Here in Now's Terry Roberts reports.
18 hours a day, the phone goes 7 days a week.
Every day we're just constantly running out of product, but we have it rolling in here every day. So far so good.
Most of our members and other builders and renovators, they're quite busy.
People requesting quotes, looking at work they want to get done, how soon can it be fitted in.
A lot are saying that they've never seen it so busy in the past 10 years.
Renovation fever has taken over. There's a pandemic, so people are spending more time at home. And with travel restrictions, many are pouring their vacation cash into renovations.
Started out inside with painting, interior work, flooring. Then as the weather got better, everybody get outside, doing their decks, doing their fences, garages, cabins, houses. I mean, it's just been overwhelming with the amount of people looking for materials on a day-to-day basis.
It's been one of the busiest years we've had.
And it's only being fueled by a government rebate of up to $10,000 on renovations and new construction projects. A $30 million injection of tax dollars.
It's a program that's doing what it's supposed to do. There is a stimulus, there is uptake from homeowners, so it's received quite well by most.
Hopeful homeowners are flocking to the Home Builders Association office in St. John's to drop off their applications before the August 7th deadline.
Our house needs a reno, a facelift, and we're happy to take advantage of the 25% rebate offer being offered by the government. So we're putting in our application today and crossing our fingers.
And contractors are spending most of their time preparing price quotes for jobs, big and small.
Most of our members now are quite happy. They're experiencing for once over the past number of years, a good influx of business.
While new home construction continues to sputter, there's no dust collecting beneath the feet of these workers. Purchase orders are flying like cards at a casino. Delivery trucks on the road from daylight until dark.
I think it's wonderful. It's great. We're employing 16 to 18 people here. The demand is strong. Compared to last year, we're probably increased double in certain categories of our business.
And if you can lift a tool, there's plenty of work to go around.
We've been inundated. It's literally, we've doubled the workforce that we've got now.
But with any boom, there are also challenges. Pressure-treated lumber, for example, is in high demand, and retailers are struggling to keep up.
Normally Home Harbour would have probably 10 to 12 trailers on the island every week. Now they're on probably 24 trailers. So that's how much hardware freight is being purchased. That's not counting the LBM, which is the lumber, plywoods.
And prices have shot up.
Plywood in the last few weeks probably have increased about 30%. Lumber is just getting a short supply.
everyday consumables that we used to just take off the shelf and pick up, it's all jumped up 10-15%.
But the extra costs don't seem to be slowing things down. And that's good for an industry trying to emerge from a prolonged slump. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, Ottawa is opening its pandemic checkbook once again. Federal officials have reached a significant funding agreement with provincial and territorial leaders. They need help with a long list of expenses like personal protective equipment, testing, tracing, help for municipalities, and more. The Prime Minister says it's an important first step.
Government will invest over $19 billion to ensure the provinces and territories have the support they need to protect the health of Canadians, help people get back to work safely, and prepare for a potential second wave. As part of this agreement, we've outlined 7 priority areas on which to focus our efforts, like increased testing and contact tracing, securing more personal protective equipment, and more support for the most vulnerable, including for seniors in long-term care facilities and nursing homes. But COVID-19 isn't just a health crisis, it's an economic crisis too. So when we talk about the recovery phase, it's not just about making sure we can detect, control, and prevent future outbreaks. It's also about helping people, businesses, and entire communities adjust to our new normal, because until we find a vaccine, the daily threat of COVID-19 will not disappear.
Protesters in Blanc-Sablon, Quebec are blocking people from getting on and off the ferry that connects Newfoundland to Labrador. The residents want to be able to visit the island without having to isolate.
We are COVID-free since day one! We are COVID-free since day one!
People in Blanc-Sablon are allowed to travel to Labrador, but they're not permitted to travel to Newfoundland unless they're deemed essential or have a special exemption from the province. Protesters say that's not fair because anyone in the Atlantic bubble who takes the ferry travels through their community. Blanc-Sablon is isolated from most of Quebec and is home to about 1,100 people.
We are isolated 60 kilometers of road with no access to any other part of Quebec. For instance, last winter, me and my family, we flew to Montreal. It cost $10,000 to fly to Montreal. On the 25th of June, the Newfoundland government said, yes, you can go to your bordering communities, which is Labrador. So they gave us access to Labrador without having to quarantine, to self-isolate, but they're telling us you can't go to Newfoundland. We go to Newfoundland. It's like our second home. Everybody has campers over there. Our kids go to hockey school. It's a part of our life. And this year with COVID, we're told that, no, you can't go. But Newfoundland opened the Atlantic bubble, which is giving other province access to Newfoundland and also access to our community. I've seen them to our gas stations, to our grocery stores. They buy some of our cheaper products that we have to go back to Newfoundland with. It's not they're passing through.
We are COVID-free since day one.
We do not want to prevent Newfoundlanders from coming here. That's not our goal. You know, we feel that we're just as much as part of them. When the government says, hey, you know what, no, we're going to give you access to Newfoundland, then we will stop.
Well, the protesters say they will continue to protest until the province hears them. Labrador MHA Lisa Dempster says the rules aren't likely to change in the near future. Well, organizers are canceling the St. John's Kiwanis Festival 7 months ahead of its 70th anniversary. The 12-day event was scheduled for February, but because of all the planning involved, incoming festival president Margaret Wakeham says they had to make the decision now. She wasn't confident they could keep everyone at the festival safe. As far as she knows, this is the first time Kiwanis ever had to be canceled. They're considering a virtual festival for later in 2021. The Liberal Party has released numbers on how many people are eligible to vote in next month's leadership race. The party says 34,000 people have registered to vote. Those voters will receive their personal identification numbers so they can cast their votes starting next week. The voting period is between July 28th and August 3rd. The winner and next premier will be announced at 6 p.m. on Monday, August 3rd. Here and Now will bring you live coverage of the leadership results that evening. Well, the Liberal leadership campaign is on the road. Both John Abbott and Andrew Furey are driving to rural areas of the province, hoping to gain popularity outside St. John's. And as Here and Now's Colleen Connors explains, campaigning during COVID has its challenges.
One car, one sign, and a lot of kilometers. Abbott stopped in Corner Brook briefly on his way to Port aux Basques.
We've committed to going to all 40 districts as part of the campaign tour.
Today, he's focused on his health plan, which he says will save the province $200 million and be ready in 3 months.
So there is lots of funding within the system that I believe, through sound management, engaging all stakeholders, that we can make the changes and find those savings and deliver better health care, better access for the people of the province.
I think there are some savings to be had, but it's to put an arbitrary number around it before you're in there and have had a look at where the targets are and what we should be doing. It's not responsible, in my opinion. I think you need to have a balanced approach around budgets. You need to consider the numbers, but you need to, more importantly, consider the people that are attached to it.
Furey has punched 2,000 kilometers in the past 36 hours, with pre-planned stops and meetings at a distance.
And so it's been nice to get out from behind a computer screen and visit the great people of Newfoundland and Labrador.
Both candidates agree that this is a really odd time to be campaigning. It's not like you can just walk into any coffee shop or restaurant, shake hands, and meet people. There are no rallies, and there's really not a whole lot of people out around in the public.
So we're trying to pre-arrange meetings. We'll either meet in an office, people's home, at the coffee shop. But people are very conscious of the COVID rules in terms of physical distancing.
We're rolling with the punches. We're doing our best. People have been great. They've been very understanding about the situation. That we're trying to be sensitive to people's anxieties, and they're out there. And my family shares those anxieties too.
Both candidates campaign on the West Coast today, with plans to visit Labrador soon. Colleen Connors, CBC News, Corner Brook.
Well, it has been wet and cold on the Avalon for the last 2 days. Just take a look at our camera at the rooms. Full weather details just ahead.
This weather update is brought to you by Newfoundland and Labrador Tourism. This year, it's Stay Home Year, the year to rediscover home.
Well, normally I end the weather forecast with a viewer photo of the day, but today I'd like to start with it because I got a really good one out of Rigolette. Now, last night, if you were watching the show, you probably saw the story about the pink whales. Well, look at this, another pink whale, or as Dr. Jack Lawson referred to it, Pinky Minky last night. This photo was taken last year by Bird's Eye Incorporated. Just have a look at that. But what's almost even better is this, just the reaction on these folks' faces to that whale. So just a great shot. Wanted to share it. Thank you so much to Bird's Eye Incorporated for sending that in to us. Just fantastic. All right, let's get to the weather forecast. Here's a look at the highs today. Only 9 degrees in St. John's. It was a cold, wet, windy day for sure, but look at Labrador. Happy Valley Goose Bay got up to 29 degrees. Such a difference in temperatures across the province today for sure, and we're in for another cold and wet day in the east tomorrow. I'm very sorry. Sunshine for most of the island and for most of Labrador tomorrow, but we do have some rain moving into Labrador West. Also, we have a frost advisory in place for this evening from Deer Lake over to Terra Nova. So if you have any frost-sensitive plants, you'll want to cover those up or bring them inside tonight just in case. So here's a look at what's coming this evening. Some cloud cover and showers moving across western Labrador. In the east, we're staying in that pattern of showers. We're going to see some more rain tonight, actually 5 to 10 millimeters of rain, 9 degrees as the overnight low. Going to stay pretty breezy as well. Northeasterlies 30 gusting to 50. The rest of the island looking nice and clear. 10 degrees as the overnight low in Corner Brook. For Labrador, very warm evening for sure coming for Happy Valley Goose Bay. 18 degrees is the overnight low tonight, and Lab City seeing those showers moving in. And that'll continue tomorrow for Lab West. Showers will pick up a bit more, and you can see that we're just in this like Groundhog Day movie with the wet gray weather in the east. Another one of those days coming tomorrow for St. John's. About 12 degrees as the high, 2 millimeters of rain expected. The winds will ease slightly tomorrow, but the rest of the island looking great. Clarenville 18 degrees as the high tomorrow. Gander 20, 24 in Grand Falls, Windsor, and just a lot of sunshine, just looking really, really nice. 23 in Corner Brook and right up along the northern peninsula. St. Anthony looking at 23 degrees, 26 in Cartwright. So yeah, pretty quiet in terms of like no precipitation happening in the province, but just a beautiful day coming tomorrow for most people. Lab City 19 degrees as the high tomorrow, about 2 to 4 millimeters of rain expected there. And just check out Makkovik, 29 degrees there tomorrow. It's going to be a sweltering Friday. So let's look ahead now to the weekend. Things certainly start to cloud over, and you can see that rain really starts to move in for Labrador. So Lab City going to see more of that rain, 21 degrees as the high there. Happy Valley Goose Bay, it's going to cloud over there and turn into a wet day, 23 as the high. St. John's not warming up very much at all. 15 degrees on Saturday with a chance of showers, and for the rest of the island, chance of showers in Corner Brook as well, and a mostly cloudy day coming for most of the island. So looking ahead now to Sunday, some more showers continuing. Lab West is going to be settling into this wet pattern for a bit as well. Looking like Sunday will be the best day of the weekend for St. John's, 22 degrees as the high there. Chance of showers for Marystown and chance of showers on the west coast, and in Lab City, 23 as the high with a chance of showers there. So looking ahead to the long range, nice day coming on Sunday, but then we kind of settle back into a bit of a wet pattern again, but at least the temperatures are certainly looking like they're going to warm up next week. For central Newfoundland, looking at mid-20s there as well, with some rain coming next week, as well as western Newfoundland. For Labrador, looking at some showers on Monday and Tuesday, 27 degrees though, so it's going to be quite humid in eastern Labrador. And for western Labrador, temperature's not quite as hot, but it's going to be staying wet for a few days starting next week. Well, despite the last few days on the Avalon, we've been having a sunny and warm summer, ideal for a staycation, and that's what comedian Rick Mercer is encouraging. He released a new rant for Destination Canada, encouraging people to have staycations. It's all part of a campaign to get people in Canada to spend their vacation dollars here.
Canadians love to travel. We love to visit somewhere nice. Actually, we spend $36 billion every year outside of Canada in search of nice. But that's okay, because under normal circumstances, millions of people from all over the world flock to Canada every year because we're nice too. In fact, according to a leading expert, that would be me, we're the nicest place on earth. We're good looking, I know that. We're super diverse. We're filled with amazing people doing incredible things. The food is great, and so are the adventures. The tourism industry is so important. It is responsible for 10% of the jobs in this country. If we just spend half of what we were going to spend out of Canada, in Canada, we can save that industry. And maybe your favorite restaurant too. So the time has come for us to explore our own backyard. And lucky us, it's a hell of an amazing yard. See for yourself. It's very easy to find. It's just 2 provinces over, or 2 towns down, or 2 hours up the street, or anywhere in between. It's your own backyard, and I promise what you'll find there is the time of your life. How nice is that?
It appears that vandals have struck this part of the canyon trail near Manuel's River, but the community is rallying around it and plans to clean it up. I'm Jeremy, and I'll have that story coming up on Here and Now.
Welcome back to Here and Now. Well, it appears vandals have tarnished aging rocks along Manuel's River in Conception Bay South. The discovery was made earlier this week, and already volunteers are mobilizing to clean up the site. The graffiti isn't helping during an already tough year. The registered charity that oversees Canyon Trail has had to cancel or modify all of its fundraising efforts because of COVID-19. Here and Now's Jeremy Eaton stopped by to see how the charity is coping, and a warning: some viewers may find some of the images offensive.
On Monday evening, staff at the Manuel's River Interpretation Center were notified of a lot of graffiti left on these rocks in an area that's known as the Canyon Trail. Now, this is a big blow for an organization that relies on funding and fundraiser. Now, due to COVID-19, they haven't been able to raise many funds, having to cancel most of their fundraisers. But after posting on social media, the community is rallying around the Manuel's River group and have offered to come clean it up.
So the canyon is a really popular spot, especially for the community as well as for tourism when we do our hikes, because of the fact that it's volcanic rock. And it's the hardest, oldest rock here on our river. Our river is one of the oldest rivers in North America. This is not your typical rock. This is what people travel here. We're known for tourism, for people to come and see what they can see, because the type of rock you see, it's like two different rivers. It's like you can see rock in Canyon that's totally different than rock and where the fossils are. I had an email from a resident who sent me pictures of everything that was done. And we are not talking about just some spray painting or tagging. There's inappropriate types of images and some racially or hatred type images painted up there. Trees completely spray painted. It's going to take a lot to clean it up, and it made me heartsick, I got to say. I was fighting back tears for about 48 hours. So I went out to through Facebook with the Community Voice for CBS, which is a great group where a lot of people share ideas, and I just shared it and asked, like, can somebody help us come forward and clean this up? But we don't have the resources right now, especially through COVID, to be able to manage this. And we got several people who replied and said, yes, I'll help if you organize something. And then I got a message from Madison Budgell. She's one of the young people involved in Mun Hope. It's about 8 to 10 of them, and they've offered to come forward and help us. So they're helping us to coordinate a volunteer cleanup on Sunday morning starting at 9 o'clock, and we're going to socially distance, and everybody's registering with me to make sure I don't have more than 50 people, and we are going to walk up and clean it all up. And members of our trail committee, who are also volunteers and been involved with the organization for as long as 30 years, went up and assessed the situation yesterday to see what would be needed, and do we need to cover up all this red paint, or do we actually, is there a way to get it off? And we found a way that will safely remove it without doing too much damage to the rock as well as to the trees. It was overwhelming, I got to say. I can't thank them enough, and I keep saying thank you so much for all your support. I know it's really painful for everybody who uses the area, and a lot of people who are participating in this cleanup and have reached out to me are people who actually grew up using that area as kids and now bring their families there. So it was great to see everybody come together and be so supportive, and people are trying to find out like who they are and what have you, and we've been getting that kind of information coming in now that we would be able to identify who did this damage, which I've been able to forward off to the RNC. As a registered charity, Manuel's River has really been impacted from a revenue perspective. We typically can operate with the support of the fundraisers that we run. We do Trails to Ocean Week in June. Couldn't do that this year. This would have been our 30th annual Bobber Race. Should have been July 4th. However, that's a community event that really does well for us. It's a kids carnival, and a canteen. Plus, we sell physical tickets, which we couldn't do. So we had to get really creative, and we launched our first ever online lottery. So it's barbarace5050.com is the website. And you can buy different packages, and that money will go towards continuing our operation as well as trail maintenance and development. We are just finishing one of the phases of our trail development, which will actually connect our trails to the ocean. We're so excited about, because that's been our ultimate goal here. And once that's finished this summer, we wanted to be able to apply for the next phase. And we can't do that without having our own contribution. And that's why the Bobber Race event is so important to us.
Well, speaking of fundraising, charities across the country are seeing a massive decline in donations as the pandemic has put fundraising events on hold. Tashana Reed has that story.
COVID-19 has put marathons on hold, along with bike races, gala fundraisers, and other events that make money for charitable health organizations. Some events have moved online.
Welcome everyone to the virtual finish line event.
But donations are well below normal.
Not only is there the issue that people can't come together, but there's also the reality of the economy and that people are concerned for their jobs, for their own salaries.
The Health Charities Coalition of Canada says its members normally raise $650 million. But so far, donations are down more than 50%, chipping away at the $150 million typically earmarked for research grants. For the ALS Society, the pandemic has also stalled the donation and delivery of medical equipment like mobility chairs.
That 50% loss of revenue is going to be a challenge as we look forward.
The Canadian Cancer Society is the largest charitable donor for cancer research.
This is probably the greatest financial challenge we've faced in our 80+ years of history.
This year, it expects donations to fall short by $80 to $100 million. The Heart and Stroke Foundation was forced to lay off 200 employees. Smaller health charities that rely on volunteers and private donations have to cut back on supporting people in need.
We've had issues being able to still keep up and do things for members in the community.
Instead of the usual $2,000 in monthly donations, the Sickle Cell Association of Ontario sees only a few hundred trickle in.
We're now going to have to find ways to come up with that money in some way, shape, or form.
Some charities will be eligible to tap into $350 million in federal funding promised back in April, but those funds have yet to be distributed. Tashana Reed, CBC News, Toronto.
One of the walls of the building fell across power lines and onto the streets.
This month, we've been looking at old fires that have hit St. John's. After the break, we'll show you a dramatic fire that destroyed a section of downtown in the late 1970s. Welcome back. Well, this part of Here and Now may feel a little like there and then. Earlier this month, we remembered the Great Fire of 1892 and its historical meaning for the province. St. John's is certainly no stranger to devastating fires. Back in 1979, a dramatic fire that started in the former Carnell's Carriage Factory on Duckworth Street and also destroyed businesses and homes in the area. Here's former host of the National, George McLean, and reporter John Baker.
Spectacular fire destroyed a block of businesses and houses tonight in downtown St. John's. About 60 people were forced out of their homes as firefighters took nearly 3 hours to bring the blaze under control. John Baker reports.
The fire started at 6 o'clock. By 9, it was a raging inferno fanned by winds of up to 110 kilometers an hour. More than 50 firemen from 3 St. John's stations were called in to battle the blaze. Tons of water was poured on the building, but the fire persisted in the old wooden structure. Several families were evacuated from their homes, and luckily no one was injured. Some firemen suffered smoke inhalation. Others narrowly escaped injury as one of the walls of the building fell across power lines and onto the streets. Sparks flying across the street set fire to another building which is still burning. 2 restaurants, several small businesses, and at least 5 homes have burned to the ground. After 5 hours, the fire was finally brought under control. Tomorrow, investigators will comb through the rubble in an attempt to determine what caused the fire. John Baker, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, many events are changing course because of the pandemic. Take the North American Indigenous Games, for example. This week, Halifax was supposed to be jam-packed with 5,000 athletes competing in the Games. Of course, COVID-19 stopped all of that, but virtually there are a few games to play, and there's hope for 2021. Colleen Jones explains.
Jaden Jameson's working out in her backyard, her sport, volleyball. She had been looking forward to being on Team Mi'kmaq Nova Scotia competing at the Indigenous Games till COVID spiked that.
I was very sad. I know my whole team was also really sad because we were all looking forward to it.
So this is our bingo card. And like everything else, they've gone virtual with a twist. How about bingo? Laura Seaboyer developed the game as a way for the Nag family to stay connected. We're doing the Gratitude Journal, listing 5 things we're thankful for. There are other holistic things on the bingo card.
Call an elder to check in on them. Make a meal for your family. List 5 things you're grateful for. Do things that are caring for a whole community.
There is an athletic part as well, a virtual run you can register for, a 2K, 6K, or 10K event.
Now, this is not a run race, it can be a walk race. What we're trying to do is get everyone out, get active, and just have some fun.
Brendan Smithson is the executive director of the Games. The hope, this massive event will go on next summer.
Moving forward, it was really important to make sure that every youth that had the opportunity to attend in 2020 has the opportunity to attend in 2021. So we've extended all of the 3 age groups by 1 to allow all Indigenous youth to participate that were able to participate in 2020 in 2021.
That's good news for Jaden Jameson, who hopes to compete in both the North American Indigenous Games and the Canada Summer Games next summer.
Definitely excited to get back in the gym and train together, and excited for next year potentially.
COVID uncertainty makes this all uncertain. The Games were last held in Toronto in 2017. They hope in 2021 Halifax finally gets their turn. Colleen Jones, CBC News, Halifax.
A group that includes 15 Nobel Prize winners is urging the U.S. to allow a controversial and riskier way to develop a COVID-19 vaccine. The group, One Day Sooner, is calling for challenge trials. Now, a challenge trial involves infecting a volunteer with coronavirus after they're given the vaccine or a placebo. The tests are seen as controversial because volunteers are directly exposed to the deadly virus, and those given a placebo would have no protection. Right now, more than 20 potential vaccines are already in the human testing phase using less aggressive approaches, including some here in Canada. A top U.S. public health official says allowing challenge trials is up for debate, but there is no plan to let them go ahead yet. Well, BC's top doctor is calling on airlines to do more to track and prevent potential COVID-19 exposure. Dr. Bonnie Henry says companies should implement more thorough screening measures before passengers board and keep more detailed information about where people are placed while on board. Henry urged airlines to stay alert not only on flights out of hotspot areas like the United States, but here in Canada as well.
Had people who were actually sick on a flight coming in from Toronto, from other parts of Canada. So yes, these are things that cause me great consternation.
Henry and other travel safety advocates are also calling for airlines to offer free cancellations, so those who may have been exposed or are symptomatic have an incentive not to board a flight. Well, with public support for Donald Trump sinking amid the pandemic, the U.S. president has made a big change to his re-election staff. He demoted his campaign manager just 4 months before voting day. Katie Simpson has more on why.
The president is said to have been frustrated with Brad Parscale, who's now being moved to digital operations, after the disastrous rally he held in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It was the first rally, the election campaign rally of the pandemic era, and Donald Trump had publicly been saying there was demand for up to 1 million tickets for his event. Well, that was not the case, and he was unable to fill the arena that he had expected to fill, and there were images of thousands of empty seats, not the kinds of images that Donald Trump wanted to see to energize his re-election campaign effort. There were also some concerns about physical distancing at that rally. Strict rules were not enforced, and local health authorities in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where that rally was held, they say it's very likely that 500 new COVID cases are related to that campaign event. So there were a lot of negative headlines that came out of that rally. Also, Donald Trump's polling numbers nationally are not looking very good right now. A new NBC Wall Street Journal shows that Joe Biden, the Democratic presidential challenger, the former vice president, he's 11 points ahead of Donald Trump. But there are still 110 days until Election Day here in the United States, so there is plenty of time for things to change and for Trump to try and rebuild momentum. Part of the reason why Donald Trump's numbers are down is because of his handling of the coronavirus pandemic. Many Americans are not satisfied by the actions of the White House and accuse Donald Trump of downplaying the situation. The U.S. continues to record tens of thousands of new cases a day. Miami right now is the epicenter, and in Miami-Dade County, which is the hottest spot in the state right now, they've run out of ICU beds, so the situation there continues to deteriorate on the ground. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
Well, scientists are raising the alarm about a freak heat wave in one of the coldest places on Earth. A new study says human-caused climate change is most certainly the reason Siberia is experiencing record-high temperatures. Heat so severe it's causing wildfires. Renee Filipponi has more.
The report was written by a group of international scientists led by the UK. It concludes that the extreme heat in Siberia would be almost impossible without human-caused climate change. The region has seen temperatures 5 degrees above average this year, with one town hitting 38 degrees Celsius, the highest ever recorded in the Arctic Circle. It's led to natural disasters in Siberia, including months of massive wildfires that have burned millions of hectares, and the melting of permafrost, which in one case collapsed a reservoir and led to a massive oil spill. The group published this map, which compares the average temperature around the world between 1981 and 2010 with those temperatures this year. The yellow, orange, and red all mean it's been hotter than normal. Using computer simulations, the report concludes that a heat wave like this should occur less than once every 80,000 years, and that greenhouse gas emissions are making events like this 600 times more likely. The study was done in 2 weeks and hasn't yet been peer-reviewed or published in a major scientific journal. But there are already some scientists making connections about the impact on places that depend on weather systems from the Arctic, like here in the UK.
4 of those 6 come from the polar regions or from the Arctic directly. So whilst a lot of this is uncertain, if something happens in the Arctic, it's going to be reasonable to assume that something's going to happen in the UK too.
She would likely make a similar case for Canada, home to the Arctic and also dependent on weather systems from the north. Many are predicting overall this will be a hot year globally, with the NASA Goddard Institute for Space saying there is now a 3 in 4 chance 2020 will be the hottest year on record. Renee Filipponi, CBC News, London.
More extreme weather to tell you about. Persistent torrential rain in southwest China has flooded towns, weakened or destroyed retaining walls, and eaten away entire sections of a national highway. Pounding rain has been falling in the region 1,400 kilometers west of Shanghai since Tuesday evening. Rivers in the area are running high, leaving softened cement reinforced buildings vulnerable to collapse. Evacuations were ordered at area work sites, and many shopkeepers have been racing to relocate merchandise. The infrastructure damage has caused ongoing traffic disruptions throughout the area. And floods have left at least 10 people dead and 70 injured in northeastern India, and extreme pressure from rising river waters has caused some bridges to collapse. Monsoon floods have forced more than 1 million people into makeshift shelters. The annual rains come in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has infected more than 1 million and killed more than 25,000. Thousands of villages have been submerged in the past 24 hours after the Brahmaputra, one of the largest rivers in the world, burst its banks. A Manitoba woman says she's lucky to be alive after a terrifying encounter with a bear. Erin McKenzie went running with her dogs through Riding Mountain National Park on Monday. After pushing through an uphill climb, she came face to face with a black bear. The attack happened within seconds, and McKenzie says it could have ended much differently.
I guess that I spooked it as much as it scared me. It hit me in the face. You can kind of see that big gash, and once on the back too. I thought I was going to die. I have never been attacked by a wild animal before.
Terrifying. Park officials have since closed the trail. As for McKenzie, she says her 10 years of hiking experience may have caused her to be complacent on that afternoon run. She cautions other hikers to always be aware of their surroundings. Well, now here is a new spirit with a royal flavor. Buckingham Palace has launched its very own dry gin made with ingredients from Queen Elizabeth's palace garden. The gin is infused with lemon, hawthorn berries, and mulberry leaves. It's described as the perfect summer thirst quencher, and the suggested serving is in a short-filled tumbler topped with tonic and a slice of lemon. The bottle sells for about $68 Canadian from the Royal Collection shop, but gin lovers in Canada are out of luck. Delivery is only available in the United Kingdom. Well, before we leave you tonight, here's a quick recap of the weather forecast. Things not looking great if you're in the east. About 12 degrees expected as the high tomorrow with some showers throughout the day. Grand Falls winds are looking beautiful at 24 degrees, as well as the west coast. Just a great day coming for everywhere else on the island except for the Avalon Peninsula, pretty much. As for Labrador, some rain moving into Lab City, 19 degrees as the high there. Beautiful for the rest of Labrador, though. Happy Valley Goose Bay looking at a high of 27 degrees with a mix of sun and cloud. Well, that's it for this edition of Here and Now. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Hope you'll be back here with us tomorrow night. Good night.